Hey, welcome everybody. Expansion Sunday.
Yeah, we hope
I had to
everybody's.
look real quick up at the banner to make sure it was the right show I was talking about.
We hope everybody is up and alive and having a great day today. It is gorgeous out, of course, hitting us now into June, very beginning
Hey, we
part of
finally
June.
got some warm weather, huh?
Yeah, absolutely beautiful out, and we're very appreciative that you are joining us today, live or perhaps later on when it suits you. And we're here to give you a little bit of inspiration, a little bit of motivation as you carry in through your week,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. We're going to be talking today about the small steps that are steps in life really that much different. Aren't they all moving forward?
Yes, yeah,
Isn't each step just a move forward in
yeah,
your progression?
yeah. We know that everybody, human beings are so competitive, and they have so much agenda and so much requirement for each other. And somehow they've developed these rules, these rules and regulations. And of course, all of that is based on somebody's perception of average or normal. And most of that just gets us in a whole lot of trouble and a whole lot of misunderstanding and a whole lot of disappointment, with what people tell us, we should be doing or how to compare ourselves. That's perfectly fine to a certain degree, for what we call kind of the type A, self-driven, self-motivated, type of people. But even with those type of people, they can develop a certain aspect of disappointment in themselves because their expectations of themselves and their level of comparison to other people can be so elevated and so blown out of proportion that their never-ending drive in their life subsequently can end up at the end of their own lives, even them feeling that they hadn't done enough and they're still not fulfilled, right?
Yeah, once again, this wonderful existence that we're on here on this planet, and we've developed a system of gauging how fast we move
Yeah,
through spirituality.
right.
And you even have doctors on
Yeah.
the planet that tell you, well, your steps aren't big enough. We have to get you moving.
Yeah.
You've got to move faster. You've got to move faster. You've got to move faster, and you immediately become guilty.
Oh, you're judging yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really fall into the
Your
judgment.
altered ego then kicks in and says to you, oh, well, I'm not good enough, or apparently I'm not moving fast enough, or this person is better than me because they've got this going on in their life and I don't.
Right.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Back up, folks. Every step is a step in the right direction, no matter how you look at it.
Yeah, and that opens up a great subject matter all the way around. If you're on your conscious journey, you're coming into the acceptance of some massive, massive theories, and which is kind of the entry level, into spirituality. The more you get on your journey, the more you embrace these extraordinary concepts of oneness and unified truth and your self-empowerment. But some of the beginning concepts for people is, number one, you have more than one life, that there's what one could perceive to be a reincarnation cycle. You take that into an expanded version of itself and you realize that there's concurrency going on, that there isn't past lives or future lives, but that there's no such thing as linear time, and that there's never any concurrency to an endless, infinite aspect of how many lives and existences that you're having. You expand that version and you get into the fact of knowing that actually you're everyone else. So it isn't even your own encapsulated individualized version of yourself in an ongoingness, but the expansive, and it goes on and on and on and on. With those theories, we start to accept the truth that there's no forward or backward, or one side to the next. It's all in the eternal moment of now, and that every experience expands you. Even though humans could perceive that some people are going backwards, the two-step forward, one-step back theory, and that is an illusionary truth based on a linear planet and human perceptions of achievement, okay? And that the truth is that every single experience expands you, right? So there really is not even a backwards, because whatever your experience is ultimately contributes to your knowing that your source, even though it can appear to be an extremely contracting, reducing experience of your knowing, it all actually plays itself out in the extraordinary vision of knowing that you're God. Okay?
Well, that's part of, do you honestly believe? I mean, I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm going to put it right there in front of your face so you can actually analyze this. Do you honestly believe that God has a program that says that you have to progress at a certain speed?
Right. Only man does that. That's man's interpretation, always. And, you know, everybody talks about small steps versus big steps versus, you know, kind of medium steps. And we totally understand where those theories come from. I was raised with that type of concept and theories. The overachievers are always wanting you got to take a big step, or this is a big leap, a big step. And everything has a place based on your state of awareness. The challenge is when those perceptions start to cripple you and start to limit you, and then they start to inflict, self-judgment, guilt, comparison, competitiveness, and then they really are doing the limited action behind, the intention, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you were raised with big steps. I was raised with big steps,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. But on a much grander scale, looking back and analyzing that very comment, I remember the look on other people's faces, and these are just young kids, and the look on their faces when they were told by the coach, so to speak, that you weren't good enough.
Yeah.
You got cut.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Just that sinking feeling inside.
Yeah.
And at the time, I didn't realize, what that was all about, because nobody had ever talked to me about that.
Yeah.
And explained to me how there's a much grander or a much broader picture to that whole scenario.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I don't know that the people that were in those situations were even open-minded enough to see the whole picture.
Right. One would perceive that a large step is something that finally, in a measurement value, massively contributes to your conscious journey. And that can be a truth. But we're going to support that it is the ongoing stepping that is the journey. It would be like, you're walking on a pathway, and you're only going to count for yourself when you have the energy, or when you have the momentum or the ability to stride very long and very wide. And unless that's going on, you're standing still, okay? Versus the person walking on the pathway next to you that's just taking continual small steps, right? Now, who do you think is going to get, on their journey, because everyone in life has different phases and stages of intention, energy output, abilities, things that derail them. And then there's just that constant ongoing, I'm stepping forward. Now, what does that all equate to? Okay? It's what we would perceive to be states of awareness. Are you only aware occasionally where you recognize something or you create something for yourself and you get the state of awareness that something bigger is going on or something broader is going on, or perhaps you have created something, and those are occasional occurrences that we say could actually just be the beginning point of your conscious journey versus the constant thread of awareness through every experience in your life, from gazing at the flower to planting the tree to having a job, making money, having relationships, having health and well-being, to putting yourself into the perspective of the crazy things around you. So from the time you wake to the time you sleep, the time you sleep to the time you wake, that your experience that you're doing is a constant state of awareness.
You know, it's ironic. This just popped into my head. It's ironic, as most children, well, years ago, there was a children's book, and there was actually a little short movie that came about the tortoise and the hare.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that children growing up hear that story, and the analogy that's played out and everybody's different interpretation about the tortoise versus the hare. Mm-hmm. And yet, if you really understand that story, it has nothing to do with whether the turtle won or whether the hare won. Mm-hmm. Or who got it was more about who got to the finish line. Mm-hmm. And how they got there. Mm-hmm. Because we all get to that, quote, finish line at some point or another. Now, some people will tell you, oh, well, that hare, the rabbit, just ran around whimsical, sat on his behind, played, had good time. Hey, great, fantastic, but he still got to the end. Mm-hmm. And nobody really wants to talk about that. They want to talk about how that slow and steady tortoise started out and at the same pace got to the finish line ahead of the rabbit. Mm-hmm. But look at that story differently. Mm-hmm. They both got there.
Yeah, and it is right. To figure out who you are, your personality type, your perspective on things, no matter what it is, and set your intention that you're going to be aware along your journey. You're doing it. You're doing the conscious journey compared to somebody who isn't. It's not about big steps or small steps. Right. It's the awareness in your stepping. That's the conscious journey. And we, of course, want to support back that there's no finish line. You're never going to be done.
There is no finish line.
You're never going to be done. We can hear some people out there going, ugh. In fact, we just had a conversation with a beautiful soul the other day who is so stuck in self-loathing, victimhood, and sadness and depression in their life that they're hoping desperately that this is the only life and they won't have to do it again. And we were having a gentle conversation with them, and the worst news that we could have provided for them was that they're never going to be done, and they keep going, and they were terrified at that notion. Terrified at that notion. Right. And we recognize exactly where they are in their conscious journey and just wish them well, and we weren't going to argue with them. We were just we just dropped a few seeds and told them how much we love them and how much we understand their perspective and where it comes from.
But once again, their perspective was coming from a right and wrong.
Well, their perspective, victimhood.
Yeah, not just victimhood, but it was based on judgment.
Right.
And this is where we say judgment, that word has a much bigger role in your life than you even realize, and how just judging things is a much bigger concept than you're aware of.
Yeah.
That we're trying to teach you to become aware of everything
Right.
that's
Right.
going on in your life.
Right. Aware of your perspective and where it comes from, and that you are responsible for your healing and your expansion. You are. Nobody else is. Nobody is there to fix you. Nobody is there to save you. You are doing that yourself. Taking that position, okay, is a very empowering position. It's not about a big step. It's not about a small step. It's about ownership, which converts to empowerment, which then is the fuel behind your path, whether it's small steps or large steps. The measurement of those steps goes away.
I think the key word there is ownership.
Ownership is empowerment. Mm-hmm. It is. It's total empowerment. It is.
And most people forget that.
Mm-hmm. And it's not, and it's ownership without judgment. Okay, you can acknowledge in your ownership that I'm a little limited in this area and I'm very expansive in this area, but I choose to keep moving. And because I keep moving and because my awareness is getting larger and broader, everything's gonna kind of work itself out and balance itself out. It's the continual aspect of victimhood, that somebody needs to save me or somebody needs to fix me, or I'm limited in this area so other people should feel sorry for me and just take care of that area for me. And we go, well, that's a perfectly fine perspective, but it's disempowering. It's disempowering for you to say to yourself, okay, I'm going to look at this and I'm gonna own it. That's your empowerment, and then your momentum in any direction is working towards your conscious aware state consciously. We also support that your conscious journey is always moving, even in your unconscious state. That's good news, because most everybody's extremely unconscious, and although it seems to take a whole lot longer to achieve your aspects of joy and happiness and empowerment when you're unconscious and asleep. Again, that's really the human measurement and the timeline measurement of a realm, illusionary comparison point of a realm. Everything is happening in the moment of now. It's just that when you're having a human experience, when a light being is having a human experience, there are generally things related to a human experience that helps to impart joy and helps to impart awareness and helps to impart fulfillment. That's why you've chosen to do a physical experience, for the perspective that a physical experience lends to you on your empowerment journey. Okay, that's why you're doing it. That's why you're doing it. Because there's endless experiences that you as a light being are going to do for the same reason. Whatever the experience that you're choosing is going to support back to you a relatable thought and experience to your knowing that you're God, based on the experience that you've chosen. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like if you're going to be a rock, or you're going to be a tree, or you're going to be a human being, or you're going to be some other type of being, some other type of version of yourself, the experience wrapped around that costume is going to interrelate another compounding effect of how you could possibly know yourself as God.
And once again, this gets back to taking small steps.
Right.
And being aware.
Right.
I cannot say this enough. Go ahead and take a large step. Go ahead and spring forward.
Right.
But look at everything that you're missing along the way in that big, huge step.
Well, what we would love for you to do is take some massive steps, but not discount your small steps. Let it all be a state of
Right.
awareness and all be contributor. You know, you're going to spend gobs of money, you're going to spend you're going to invest in yourself. You're going to do some really cool workshops. You're going to do some really, really deep work. And of course, most people can't do that on a just ongoing state. Okay, number one, energetic wise, it takes a lot of energy to do some massive work with groups of people, with extraordinary teachers. And there's nothing like that. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
But the minute you leave the workshop and you wake up the next morning, are you continuing that state of awareness as you're watering the plants and feeding the dogs and going to work and reading and sleeping and watching programming? That's really the magic, okay? Now, one could say, well, there's a difference in energy output, and we'll say, well, that can be a truth, but even the quiet, calm awareness state when you're walking down the road and you're having magnificent thoughts and you're choosing your thoughts and you're choosing your emotions, and even though they may not be life-changing thoughts in your perspective, they are contributing to your life-changing because you're constantly aware of them. The constant conversation with a great friend or a partner that can be about anything, any topic, but you're choosing to see it in an expanded version of itself. You're looking for an expanded version of that perspective. You're doing your conscious awareness journey consistently. That is extraordinary. It's extraordinary. Because commonly people will just do the big jolts, the heroin injections, and then they'll just go back till the mundane, judgmental, low frequency, competitive, punishing, requirement and agenda type of lives, and they get drained all out. It's just like this. The workshops fill your tub up.
Right.
Okay? They fill your tub up. You leave the workshop, you yank the plug out, and
everything drains
you're
out.
looking for a workshop to fill the tub up, right? It's like, well, how about if you keep the plug in? How about if you keep the plug? Well, how do I keep my plug in? Well, that means you've got to stay aware. You take the filled bathtub and you learn how to sustain that bathtub with awareness, every step that you're taking. Now that's actually honoring the workshop, that's honoring yourself, that's honoring your life, right? Now you might go get a bigger bathtub and you might fill it up again, and that's super cool. But my intention is to make myself aware in a continual state. That's mastery, right?
Yeah, I like to look at it sometimes from a totally different analogy, and I liken it to the farmer who has plants out in the field, mm-hmm. or the gardener, even the person that does a little home gardening system. Going in once a week and just blasting everything with water doesn't do you any good.
Right.
It only gives the plants water one time a week. Where if you put them on a watering system,
a drip system
that's regulated,
yeah,
you're drip feeding that plant and it flourishes.
Right. Of course, you got to do the fertilizer and all that stuff, which are your jolts, right?
But they flourish.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
The fertilizer is the jolt.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have the liquid, the water, mm-hmm. to keep the plant alive.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're not going to stay alive.
Yeah, I guess the question in this topic is, do you get disappointed in your own self when you're only measuring your big steps? And then you think to yourself, I'm just not taking enough big steps. I'm just not doing, enough work. Or you're looking at somebody else and thinking they're doing such massive works because their steps are so huge and so obvious. Or are you thinking to yourself, I only take baby steps, I don't do enough work because I don't take really big steps, I only take baby steps. That's the question we're asking, which is self-sabotaging, okay, derailing, and judgmental on your own self. We really kind of want you to get away from the perspective of big and little, because that's a judgment, right?
Yeah.
And we want you to find your rhythm, find your consistency, because that is where your fulfillment, okay? It's like the people who walk or run. You're a daily exercise person. And I run, I get out there and I run. Now, how fast am I running? They're measuring their success, not only by the distance that they run, but the time and the distance that they run. I'm getting better at it. I'm running faster and faster. And you're like, but it's the same distance. But I can do it faster. And we're like, compared to who? Compared to who? Well, Mary down the street is walking that every single day. Every single day. And you know what? Mary's body isn't getting beat up. She's got a very strong body. She's not stressing her muscles out. She's not stressing her soft fasciitis out. Okay? She's not, if she falls, she's not at risk, is totally biffing it and breaking a hip because she's not moving. But every day, that little 5-mile walk. And I saw this, which was really interesting in my life because I come from, just like you, I come from a highly competitive, highly sports-minded family. And it was always the pain, no gain, the drive, the pound, the drive, the pound, the fast, the quick, the balance, fast, quick, the balance. Of course, trophies and awards and trophies and awards. And my grandmother on my mother's side walked every single day about 5 miles. Every single day. And she didn't do it fast. I mean, she was an older woman. Now, she grew up in a time period where you didn't do a whole lot of automotive driving. You walked a lot. She literally grew up, in her lifespan of almost 100 years, she went from horse and carriage transportation, horse and carriage transportation, to bicycle transportation, to motor bicycle transportation, to vehicle transportation, okay, in a life span, which was incredible, a 100-year span, okay. And so she came from a life of, you just walked. You walk to where you're going. You walk to work, you walk to the grocery store, walking. And this was just a constant in her life. Just a constant in her life. She didn't run. She didn't play sports. She wasn't a weekend warrior. She didn't drive very much. She just walked. Okay, and I remember she was 90 plus years old. Okay, and her health and wellness was so extraordinary. She was on no medication, none. She took a calcium pill every day just because, measurably she had some osteoporosis, and of course we don't need to get into what causes that, which is dairy, and we won't talk about that. That was what she took. Her medication was one pill, a calcium pill every day, and she didn't even wear reading glasses. Okay? And the doctor was like, said that walking every day, and she was slim and fit. And then you see that other people have got hip replacements and knee replacements because they've been running their whole lives and this and that. She didn't have any of that. She was good to go. And anyway, I remember...
Or the competitive person that grew up,
that's me. Yeah.
Injuries.
Absolutely. And I remember kind of at the end of Mimi's life, as she lived to be 94 years old and basically chose to leave. When she chose to leave, she just said goodbye and closed her eyes and chose to leave. And... I remember that hitting me and going, oh my God, there's that little constant, the baby step phenomenon, extraordinary life, extraordinary elongated life, no pain, no suffering, no disease, no chronic condition, pretty open-minded, pretty happy with the people in her life, versus those all the rest of us that are hard, what I call hard punching. Everything that we're doing.
And angry.
Right.
Angry.
Right. And at her end of her life experience, I can't speak for her, but it didn't appear she had many regrets. She was happy and satisfied and fulfilled with her life, and literally her attitude was, goodbye. We'll see you next time around. Right? Right. Are you taking baby steps? Are you taking big steps? We really would love for you to stop thinking about them being small or big and just move.
Yeah,
Right?
actually, that's just what I was going to say is, isn't it more important if you're moving? I mean, not that there's really any importance because you know what? That's a judgment.
Well, you're doing
It's
what
just,
you're doing.
it's moving
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
being consciously aware of which direction you're moving.
Right. Right. Choosing love, choosing possibility, everything expansive and everything self-empowering. Being the creative being, conscious creative being of your world. Tolerance, compassion, non-judgment. This is characteristics of a spiritual path, versus the non-spiritual path of comparison, of punishment, of agenda, of requirement, of big and small, and forward and back, and side to side, and up and down, and yin and yang, which is a limited conscious perspective. You're going to get broader than all of that and see how all of it is moving on your conscious journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's our topic for today, right?
Small steps.
Small steps or big steps.
Or big steps.
How about just consciously aware of your steps?
How about just moving?
Right, right. We hope all of you move into your conscious state. Extreme joy in that, right? Press upon you the fulfilled journey, the patient journey, the compassionate journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
We want to thank all of you for joining us today on Expansion Sunday. We hope you've been expanded by this conversation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. We love you. We will see you next time, and be well and safe, as always, right?